reminder, we're talking about Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid is what could be perceived as an app chain, as a chain that was specific for one thing, which was like high frequency trading, right? And it is now evolving. It went live recently with this token. It's now evolving into its own dedicated chain, trying to become an L1. And in this context, it has currently four validators. Validators, again, are the things that can produce blocks on the chain. So quick reminder on how infrastructure works. Typically, the more validators you have, the less performant the chain is. Not a hard rule, but it's a general rule for how these blockchains work. So everyone has been criticizing Hyperliquid because, hey, it's cool, it's fast, it's cheap, it has good UX, but there's only four validators on it, which is kind of a controversial topic. Well, recently, Tevano here, she is a security expert in the space, been around for a long time, works for Consensus. She has been tracking North Korea specifically on a lot of their exploits over the years. Had a tweet that said, basically, hey, I have wallets that I know are related to North Korea, which are trading on Hyperliquid. You can see it here. They went levered long on Ethereum, got liquidated for a couple $100,000, right? Down in this screenshot, $700,000. People are laughing at it like, LOL, they're bad traders. I think the big response here, I don't know if it's actually in this scroll down, or I actually did it as a response to someone or in this thread, but the big thing is that, North Korea doesn't trade, they test. And I think that is the key point, right? If they're doing this, and that's what they're the fear of, like what's going on with Hyperliquid, is they're not just trying to play around and trade and degen. They're prodding the actual chain itself, the exchange itself, for vulnerabilities. And that is scaring people into thinking, oh shit, maybe there's going to be an exploit. They're going to, if you think about the Ronin bridge hack, right? It was a couple $100 million that was stolen. So people then started looking at this and saying, okay, there's signal here. Is Hyperliquid at risk for being exploited, right? So then people started looking at the funds that would potentially be at risk, what that mitigation, the stages of mitigation would be. Saigar had a good tweet on it, but in general, it's okay. Well, we know that there's only four validators on the chain, four things that are producing the actual blocks. So if you compromise those, again, it's only four. So if you compromise four, then you have full control over the chain itself. That's bad. You can produce blocks, whatever. You can double spend. You can steal funds. You can do all kinds of shit. Then again, Saigar tweeted, okay, well, let's look at some of the other known pools of funds associated to Hyperliquid. One being on Arbitrum. Arbitrum, there is the bridge. Everyone has kind of had a meme recently just saying like Arbitrum is now just a Hyperliquid bridge. And then he's going through the process of what it would look like if this $2.3 billion at USDC was infiltrated. So the bridge contract itself, it only takes two of three signers from the validators in order to take full control over that bridge contract on Arbitrum. So, okay, so originally we had four validators. That's already a small number. Now you have two of the three that if they're compromised by North Korea through these prodding tests, that they can steal $2.3 billion worth of USDC on the Arbitrum bridge, send it to a malicious address, whatever. If that were to happen, then you hope that either USDC steps in and freezes the funds, or Arbitrum steps in and rolls back the chain. Some of those things, all those have different quorum and regulatory rules around it. Like Arbitrum can't just arbitrarily do it. They have a security council. You need like 9 people to get on board to sign the thing to roll back the bridge. It's a lot. There, 9 of 12 is the actual multi-sig. So it's mostly just people are questioning Hyperliquid's great. Everyone's pouring money into Hyperliquid. There's a lot of degen activity going on. Tay here saw signs of a malicious actor playing in the environment, thinking it would be something that could actually lead to loss of funds for users. And then Saigar breaking down, okay, what would it actually happen if like this happened? How could we stop it? What would that look like? Ultimately, like the pushback on this is like, of course, they're prodding the chain itself, right? They're prodding every chain, they're prodding every DEX. They're trying to find vulnerabilities everywhere. Just because there's presence there doesn't mean they found an exploit or there is an exploit. So it's a balance of, okay, this is happening. Is it likely that it actually is an exploit, or are they actually just like poking around like they do everywhere? And Tevano has also reached out to Hyperliquid recently and said, let me help you out. I know there's a lot of attack vectors for a lot of these protocols, and I'd like to give you some insight on how North Korea specifically likes to go after people and try to shore up your defenses. No, there are no signs of an actual exploit. People are probably a little skittish and they're trying to get out. That may be leading to the price FUD or the price downturn 17% here in the last, I think it's 24 hours. But ultimately, it's just a technical decision for the team of, how quickly do we expand our validator set to decentralize our protocol to ultimately try to secure our vulnerability vectors. And again, if you decentralize, if you have more validators, it lowers performance of the actual chain. Is it as good if it's not as performant? So there's a lot going on there.
A lot going on. Outstanding summary for bringing up. Thanks so much for bringing us up to speed, Brad. Two kind of follow-on points, and then I kind of wanted to get your take, just your general take on the situation if you were using Hyperliquid in a moment. But you mentioned two ways that if something were to go wrong, like what are the options for Hyperliquid or Arbitrum or Circle to, kind of step in to be of assistance. And one was Circle freezing funds, and the other is Arbitrum rolling back the chain. This view was expressed by Lawrence, who is pretty prominent on the timeline. Forgive me for not knowing exactly what they do. Someone at Euler Finance, I think, maybe he was the founder.
Yeah,
Do
he's
you know, Brad?
creating Wildcat. Wildcat's a financial tool for on-chain credit, and he's kind of he used to be a programmer, so he's a very technical person, but he's also a very good shit poster. He's really funny. Yeah,
I kind of gathered as much. Like I kind of felt that he knew how to talk about this stuff without actually knowing specifically what he did. So glad I picked him out. Thanks for that context. So his thoughts on those
there's
two.
also there's also kind of funny. There's a long time meme with him where Lawrence is like the Death Note of crypto, where like the meme is that he is the one that is like actually hacking a lot of these protocols, because he'll like write down a name and then ultimately they'll get hacked after that, and then like everyone blames him. So like it's kind of an ongoing CT meme.
Okay, that's fun. So maybe he's in a good position to talk about the hacks. So look, this was his take anyway. Some cold water on those two options to mitigate. Circle are not going to freeze funds without a court order, which takes time to acquire. And Arbitrum are absolutely not going to do a rollback for anything less than an absolutely self-existential threat. 2 billion isn't even close to that. Assuming that a low number of validators automatically guarantees tight OPSEC is also potentially fatal. So I think his position here is that the fallbacks that are suggested are not really fallbacks in the sense that you're not going to get anything close to fast resolution to a hack. That's their perspective. But Brett, I wanted you to have a thought on that, and then maybe more generally, like if you were messing around on Hyperliquid at the moment, how would you be thinking about it?
Yeah, so yeah, his general position, obviously, you see here, he said, like, if they're poking around, it's not just because they're having fun. Like, there might actually be something there. And he's like, you're right. Other people referenced with USDC freezing, like Zach XBT commented on one of these things where he said, like, yeah, they don't operate on weekends and holidays, right? You have to go through an actual legal process to have the US government issue like a subpoena, like all this shit, right? I don't even think it was a subpoena, but whatever. The US government has to step in. So it's a process. It's not like you just instantly do that. So if they swap to a token that can't be frozen, it's GG's, right? And then, yeah, same thing with Arbitrum, because it is a security council. Arbitrum is a more mature L2, right? And L2s long term are supposed to be that you can't just have someone step in and, as Sammy here mentioned in chat, the munchables on Blast, right? Blast is an immature L2. Whenever that happened, that exploit happened, and because at that time Blast had full control over the entire chain, right? They could just instantly say, bro, you're not doing it. I'm not going to let you do it, right? So they could talk to the people and say, give us the funds because we're not going to let you do it, like just straight up. Whereas Arbitrum, because it's further along in its maturation process, it does not have that power. It needs the 9012 multisig. Like there's a process to it. And as he said, it has to be an existential crisis, like the DAO hack of Ethereum, right? They don't just do that all the time. There's scams happen. Lazarus Group does all kinds of stuff on Ethereum, but there's no Ethereum fork to get away from that. The DAO hack was an existential crisis. It would need to be existential here for Arbitrum to do it. So yeah, it's just to say that, like, yes, there are measures there. They're not likely to happen because, one, that kind of removes the facade. Facade. There you go. Jesus. I've been traveling too much. There's too many languages in my head.
You're doing
the
Spanish,
Dude, Italian, Spanish, yeah, a little bit of German. Yeah, so like it removes the facade of like a decentralization within the ecosystem. So like it was the same thing happened with Blast, right? They didn't want to step in because like it kind of removes the illusion that there is no control there, even though it is. Yeah. And personally, so like if I had my funds on there, would I do it? I like decentralization or this stuff doesn't matter until it matters. People are going to say whatever they want until it actually happens. If it were me personally, I think I'd be fine with it. But I also would not have a disproportionate amount of my net worth there. So,
Sam, is that what you were about to ask, basically?
Well, no, just about the the blast exploit with the Munchables. I think they closed the bridge, and there was a big hoo-ha because there was suggestions of a rollback, but I think that was far less. It was like 65 mil or something. They obviously decided to not do that. But the bridge closure is just an interesting one because I think there was negotiations around, okay, well, you can't actually take this off this L2. So you either give us back with like a slight discount as like a white hat hacker thing or whatever it is,